Am I the a-hole for letting my best friend's family think he's a hero? My best friend, Caleb, died last month. It was sudden, tragic, and completely preventable. But here's the part one haven't told anyone. He didn't die the way everyone thinks he did. The news painted him as a hero. Local man dies saving child from drowning. His family, his girlfriend, our whole town. They all believe he saw a kid struggling in the river, jumped in without hesitation, and lost his life trying to save them. But that's not what happened. Caleb and I were out by the river that evening, drinking, goofing around, being reckless. At one point, he dared me to climb onto a rock in the middle of the river. I laughed it off, but he kept pushing, calling me a coward, saying I never take risks. So, I told him, if it's so easy, you do it. And he did, or at least, he tried. He slipped before he even got halfway across. The current was stronger than we thought. He panicked, fought against it, and within seconds, he was gone. I tried to get to him, but by the time I did, it was too late. I was in shock. I knew no one would believe we were just messing around. Caleb was the golden boy, star athlete, straight A student, future doctor. The idea that he died over a dumb dare would destroy his family. So, I told a different story. I made up the kid. Said Caleb saw them struggling in the water and didn't hesitate. That he died trying to save a life. It spread like wildfire. People needed to believe it. His parents said it made his death easier to bear. They're planning to build a statue of him in town. Now, every time I see them, I feel sick. Every time I hear someone say, Caleb was a hero, I remember the truth. I remember how it was my fault. But at this point, telling the truth would only break them more. So I stay silent. Am I the a-hole for letting them believe a lie? Am I the a-hole for keeping the $1 million I found instead of telling my friend? A few months ago, my best friend Eric, 29M, bought an old house to renovate. It was a fixer-upper, and since I, 28M, have some construction experience, I helped him out for free. Tearing up floors, knocking down walls, the usual. One day, while pulling out an old cabinet, I found a metal box hidden behind the wall. Inside, stacks of cash, bundled, old, and clearly forgotten. I counted, over $1 million. My heart was pounding. I should have told Eric. It was his house, after all. But then I thought, he bought it cheap, had no idea the money was there, and I was the one who found it. Plus, Eric's already well off. He's got a solid job, family money, and this house was just a side project for him. Meanwhile, I'm drowning in debt, working paycheck to paycheck. So I made a choice. I took the money. Bit by bit, I smuggled the stacks out in my tool bag over the next few days. I told myself it was a victimless crime. The original owner was long gone. Eric would never miss what he never knew existed, and I could finally fix my life. Fast forward to now. Eric just mentioned something weird. His contractor found an old envelope hidden in another part of the house. Inside was a faded note from the previous owner, talking about the emergency stash behind the kitchen wall. Now Eric is convinced there's hidden money somewhere, and he's tearing the place apart looking for it. I feel guilty, but at the same time, I already have the money. It's mine now. If I confess, I lose everything. But if I stay quiet, I have to watch him obsess over something I already took. Am I the a-hole for keeping the $1 million instead of telling him? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister's fiancé the truth about her son? So, I, 26F, have a sister, Ellie, 28F, who's always been the golden child. She's got a successful career, a beautiful house, and the perfect fiancé, James, 30M. My parents adore her, and it's always been clear that they think she can do no wrong. But there's something about Ellie that's always seemed off to me, and recently I discovered what it was. A few weeks ago, I was going through some old papers in the attic when I found something that didn't belong to me. A paternity test result. At first, I thought it was some kind of mistake, but when I looked closer, I saw that it was addressed to Ellie. The test confirmed that her son, Ryan, 4, was not James's biological child. Instead, it was from another man. A guy who had been a close family friend for years. I was shocked. I had no idea that Ellie had been hiding this from everyone, especially from James, who had always treated Ryan as his own son. She had never mentioned anything about a paternity test or the fact that another man was Ryan's father. I confronted Ellie about it, and she broke down. She told me the truth. Ryan's real father is the family friend, Mark, 35. The two of them had an affair years ago, but Ellie had kept it a secret because she was scared of ruining her perfect image and her relationship with James. She'd let James believe that Ryan was his child, even though she knew the truth. I was torn. On one hand, I understood how complicated and painful this situation was for Ellie, but on the other hand, I couldn't just sit back and watch her lie to James, especially when he was so involved in Ryan's life. The worst part? James was about to propose to Ellie, and I knew that he had no idea that Ryan wasn't his biological son. After much back and forth, I made a decision. I messaged James and told him I needed to speak with him privately. When we met up, I hesitated for a moment, but I knew it had to be done. I explained everything. how Ellie had kept the truth from him and how Ryan's real father was someone else entirely. I gave him the paternity test results and told him that it was up to him how to handle things, but he needed to know the truth. James was devastated. He felt completely betrayed, and honestly, I don't blame him. He'd raised Ryan as his own, and now this entire foundation of trust and love was crumbling before him. He told Ellie that he couldn't marry her and walked away from their relationship. Ellie was furious with me, calling me a traitor and accusing me of ruining her life. Our parents are also mad at me. They say I had no right to get involved and that I should have let Ellie handle things herself. Now, I'm questioning if I did the right thing. I know I did what I thought was best for James, but part of me feels guilty for tearing apart her life. Am I the a-hole for telling James the truth about Ryan's paternity? Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister's fiancé the truth about her son? Well, a lot has happened since I last posted, and things have completely spiraled. After James broke off the engagement, he immediately demanded a legal paternity test to confirm what I told him. It was 100% true. Ryan wasn't his son. This only made things worse because James is now looking into whether he has any legal rights to Ryan, considering he's been raising him as his own. From what I've heard, he's absolutely heartbroken but refuses to continue being lied to. Ellie, on the other hand, has completely lost it. She's been calling and texting me non-stop, alternating between furious rants about how I ruined her life, and desperate pleas for me to talk to James and convince him to come back. Our parents are still on her side and keep telling me I should have stayed out of it. They say James loved Ryan and that it didn't matter who the biological father was. I argue that it does matter if you build a relationship on a lie. Now, here's where it gets even messier. Mark, the real father, had no idea about any of this. I guess Ellie thought she could keep the secret buried forever. When James cut ties, Ellie had no choice but to confess everything to Mark. And guess what? Mark wants nothing to do with Ryan. He's married with kids of his own, and when Ellie told him the truth, he flipped out. He told her he had no interest in stepping up as a father and that she was on her own. Now, Ellie is completely isolated. James is gone, Mark refuses to be involved, and our family is furious with me for exposing her secret. But here's the thing, I don't regret it. James deserved to know the truth before committing to a marriage built on deception. And Ryan? He deserves a father who is there for him because he wants to be, not because he was tricked into it. Ellie says she'll never forgive me. Our parents are still mad, but honestly, I'm done being the villain for telling the truth. I know I didn't cause this mess, Ellie did. I just refuse to keep covering for her. Am I the a-hole? Because honestly, at this point, I'm at peace with what I did. Am I the a-hole for letting my friend think I stole his fiancé? I, 27M, have a friend, Mark, 28M, who's been with his fiancée, Claire, 26F, for 3 years. Their relationship has always been rocky. He's a bit of a jerk, takes her for granted, and is often selfish. Claire's mentioned more than once how unhappy she is, but she stays because she's invested. A few months ago, Claire and I started spending more time together after they broke up. She needed space from him, and we started hanging out, drinks, movies, talking for hours. Eventually, we hooked up. I wasn't expecting it to happen, but it felt right. She kissed me first, and we both got closer. She even told me I understood her better than Mark ever did. Then Mark and Claire got back together. A few weeks later, Mark suspected something was up and accused Claire of cheating. She admitted it, but told him it wasn't serious, just a fling. When Mark confronted me, I didn't deny it. I just stayed quiet and let him think it was all Claire's fault. Now Claire's upset with me for not coming clean, and Mark won't talk to me. Everyone's saying I'm an a-hole for letting them fight while staying silent. But honestly, I don't feel guilty. Mark's been a jerk to her, and Claire was the one who kissed me. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for exposing my friend's secret after he screwed me over? I, 28M, have a best friend, Luke, 30M, who I've known since college. A couple of years ago, I lent him a large sum of money when he hit a rough patch, trusting he'd pay me back soon. But months went by, and every time I asked, he made excuses while I noticed him spending money on dinners, gadgets, and trips. A few weeks ago, I found out the truth in the most humiliating way. I went to his place and saw his computer open to a group chat with people sharing extremely specific, embarrassing fetishes. He had been paying thousands of dollars to engage in online roleplays and send intimate photos to strangers. Worse, he was hiding this from his girlfriend, who thought he was just busy with work. I was furious. He lied about needing money, then used it for something so degrading. So, I went to our mutual friends and told them everything. I figured they deserved to know what he'd been hiding. Luke is livid, calling me a traitor and saying I ruined his life. Some friends agree with me, others think I should have kept it private and let him handle it on his own. Am I the a-hole for exposing his secret?